I talked to Democrats, I talked to Republicans, and they are furious.
Taking effect today, Canada's new 25% tariffs on more than $20 billion worth of U.S. goods. Retaliation for the Trump administration's steel and aluminum duties.
In President Trump's unprecedented series of U.S. tariffs that are designed to, the effects on the global economy will be monumental.
Donald Trump, once celebrated for his chest-thumping America First bravado, now finds himself entangled in the wreckage of his own reckless trade crusade.
President Trump says he's cutting off trade talks with neighbour Canada immediately. It's over plans by the Canadians to enforce a new tax targeting big tech companies, which is predicted to cost them more than $7 billion over the next 5 years.
The man who once ridiculed allies, threatened global partners, and promised to bring the world to heel through tariffs and tough talk is now being outmaneuvered, not by a geopolitical giant, but by Canada. Yes, Canada, the quiet neighbor he assumed would fold, flinch, and fall in line.
President Donald Trump says he is ending trade discussions with Canada effective immediately.
Instead, Trump is learning the hard way that his bluster isn't diplomacy and his slogans aren't strategy. This isn't Beijing or Brussels pushing back. It's Ottawa, armed not with fists, but with facts. Under Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada didn't match Trump's tantrums. It beat him with calm resolve and economic clarity. While Trump swings in a trade boxing ring, flailing for attention and applause, Carney is playing chess, methodically repositioning Canada on the global trade map. And here's the real kicker. Trump's unraveling began with a tax, just 3%, on the very tech billionaires he loves to protect.
Earlier this month, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government is urgently working to remove these tariffs, which is not just impacting pork, but canola products too.
This wasn't some act of economic war. Canada's digital services tax was debated, legislated and calibrated, retroactively applied to ensure fairness in a market where U.S. tech giants have long extracted billions from Canadian users without paying their fair share. But instead of responding with reason, Trump did what he always does when challenged. He lashed out. He walked away from the table, called Canada foolish, and threatened retaliation.
And it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said, we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act.
All while pretending to defend American workers, when in reality, he was shielding Silicon Valley elites. And now, Trump finds himself backed into a corner, barking threats that no one takes seriously. Not Canada, not Europe, not even American farmers who are paying the price for his trade misadventures. What was once pitched as tactical genius has devolved into international embarrassment.
Canadians love Americans. We love the U.S. I lived there 20 years, and we're part of the family. And as for why President Trump is doing this, your guess is as good as mine.
This isn't just irony, it's poetic justice. The dealmaker has become the disruptor, the self-proclaimed trade warrior now exposed as a paper tiger. And the neighbor he mocked? That neighbor is standing taller than ever. Donald Trump didn't just pull the plug on trade negotiations, he detonated them, all because Canada dared to stand up for economic fairness.
We are going ahead, even while we're negotiating, was a risky move. And to the extent to which we thought maybe the U.S. was bluffing, we've learned that they're not.
The trigger? A modest 3% digital services tax imposed on U.S. tech giants like Google, Meta, Amazon, and Airbnb, companies that have long harvested billions from Canadian users while contributing virtually nothing to the Canadian economy. This tax, implemented in 2024 and applied retroactively to 2022, was not a hostile strike. It was a deliberate correction of a glaring imbalance, a long overdue move to ensure multinational tech firms pay their fair share where the profits are actually made. But Trump, ever the defender of billionaire monopolies, framed it as a betrayal. He called Canada foolish, claimed it would end badly, and stormed out of negotiations in a familiar fit of reactive fury. It was a repeat performance from the same man who earlier slapped tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, dishwashers, canola, and pork, not out of strategy, but spite.
Digesting the president's latest post on Truth Social, warning that the U.S. will add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on steel and aluminum coming into the U.S.
His approach to trade is consistent: blame first, bully second, and break everything else on the way out. The fallout has been devastating. Trump's erratic tariff wars created waves of uncertainty for businesses across North America. From disrupted supply chains to agricultural panic, his legacy is a fractured trade landscape, increased inflation, and shaken investor confidence. American consumers are paying more, farmers are earning less, and global partners are re-evaluating whether the U.S. can still be trusted.
For the sake of the American people and the Canadian people, he needs to pull back. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen here.
Trump didn't just walk away from a deal, he walked away from responsible leadership, leaving allies behind and handing Canada the moral and strategic high ground. Trump's empty promises reached their crescendo at the G7 summit in Kananaskis, where he stood shoulder to shoulder with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and boldly declared that a trade deal would be finalized by July 16th. Cameras rolled, hands were shaken, headlines splashed. It was textbook Trump, a performance wrapped in bravado with zero follow-through. But behind the scenes, there was nothing but chaos. As the deadline approached, Trump did what he's known for. He vanished. No deal, no draft, no diplomacy. Just another photo op sacrificed at the altar of his short attention span. While he was tweeting attacks and picking new fights, trade negotiations flatlined.
Remind everybody, what has Trump said in his 2 tweets, and what are the effects we're seeing?
Well, he seems to be interested in stepping up the trade war again, as you can see there.
Meanwhile, Mark Carney was doing the real work of leadership. Instead of posturing, he quietly assembled his team, engaged with Canadian stakeholders, and coordinated efforts to secure trade stability. No shouting, no stunts, just policy execution designed to protect families, farmers, exporters, and local supply chains that are vital to Canada's economic engine. And the difference couldn't be clearer. While Trump built castles of air on national television, Carney built safety nets. While Trump promised deals and delivered dysfunction, Carney ensured continuity. As North America's most powerful economy chose turbulence, Canada chose resilience. Trump's July 16th pledge now lies in the same graveyard as his other broken promises, from the China trade deal that never materialized to the great new NAFTA that brought new friction. For Trump, deadlines are not commitments, they're PR tools. For Carney, they're mandates to deliver for the people he serves. In rural provinces like Manitoba, Canadian farmers, once considered collateral damage in Trump's reckless tariff crusade, are now thriving by necessity and policy. Tariffs on international imports disrupted traditional supply routes, but instead of chaos, Canada found opportunity. Pork producers and canola farmers adapted swiftly, supplying a growing domestic market with precision and pride. Where Trump's tariffs created fear and instability, Carney created clarity. His administration didn't yell into microphones. They reinforced supply chains, expanded agricultural investment, and stabilized trade conditions. And the results are visible on the ground. Farms growing, exports rebounding, and rural communities regaining confidence. This is the difference between bluster and backbone. While Trump weaponized trade to chase headlines, Carney turned a trade war into a blueprint for national resilience. Trump loves to frame himself as the defender of rural America, but his actions betray his loyalty. When Silicon Valley moguls complain about foreign taxes, Trump springs into action, granting exemptions and lobbying to protect their profits. But when American farmers cry out for fertilizer access or export support, all they get are empty slogans and camera-ready outrage. This isn't leadership, it's corporate favoritism dressed up as patriotism. Big tech gets loopholes, small-town America gets lip service. Carney, by contrast, isn't interested in shielding monopolies. He's closing tax loopholes and demanding accountability from billion-dollar platforms operating freely off Canadian data. His 3% digital services tax isn't a personal attack on America, it's a fair policy to correct long-standing imbalance. That's not hostility, that's economic justice. Trump repeatedly brags about collecting billions in tariffs, as if they're trophies in a trade war he's winning. But here's the truth, tariffs are taxes, paid not by China or Canada, but by ordinary American families. Every grocery run, every appliance purchase, and every trip to the store now carries an invisible Trump surcharge. Inflation didn't fall from the sky, it was engineered. Trump's unpredictable tariff tantrums triggered supply chain disruptions, supplier hesitancy, and investor retreat. Yet when the economy slowed, he blamed the Federal Reserve. It's a classic Trump deflection. Break the engine, then scream at the mechanic. Meanwhile, Carney offered a steady hand. Clear policy, stable tax frameworks, and global cooperation. While Trump points fingers, Carney points forward. Trump's trade policy is performance art, loud, boastful, and often baseless. He touts phantom deals with China and the UK, deals no one has seen, signed, or ratified. He claims leverage, but has no substance. His diplomacy is built on coercion, not cooperation. World powers aren't impressed. India, the EU, Canada, they've started building trade systems that bypass Washington entirely. Trump's volatility has turned the United States from a trusted anchor into a risk factor. Carney understands that markets crave certainty. That's why Canada is deepening ties with Europe, strengthening partnerships in Asia, and seeking trade diversification in Africa. While Trump isolates, Carney integrates. While Trump reacts, Carney designs. That's leadership with long-term vision. And then there are the ripple effects. The silent economic tremors spreading across the U.S. Canadian tourism is down. Nevada's hospitality economy, once bustling with international visitors, is seeing thinner crowds, lighter casino floors, and a noticeable dip in spending. Airports in cross-border states are quieter, and small businesses in Michigan, Minnesota, and New York are watching their Canadian revenue streams dry up. This isn't theoretical, it's quantifiable. Trump's tariff war didn't just punish global partners, it undercut domestic livelihoods. Carney saw it coming. That's why he's not waiting for Washington's next tantrum. He's fortifying Canada's economy with foresight, diplomacy, and data, not delusion. This isn't just a trade dispute, it's a test of leadership on the world stage, and the contrast couldn't be clearer.